Hello everyone, my name is Legend Ronnie and this game is Rise of Kingdoms. Free-to-play pairings for legendary commanders in Rise of Kingdoms. The reason I'm doing this video is because it's going to be a follow-up of the video that I've just uploaded a couple of days ago. I'm gonna post a card on the top regarding that, where I actually gave a lot of advices regarding small investments in legendaries for free-to-play. So this is going to be a video with pairings with small investments in them for free-to-play in Rise of Kingdoms. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Rise of Kingdom video. This is your boy Legend Ronnie, and today we're gonna talk about some pairings for your field battle marches. The reason I'm doing this video is exactly like I mentioned in the beginning, is regarding the follow-up video for the minimum investment in legendaries. So I'm gonna take as a reference in this video around 1100 sculptures that players can probably achieve throughout a year of gameplay. So I'm talking about the first year of gameplay. I'm gonna add a couple more pairings, which obviously is gonna go over a year. So I'm presuming we are taking like a minimum that a free-to-play player in 1 year will be able to achieve around 1100 sculptures. So based on that, I'm going to do the pairings. After 1 year, you're obviously going to achieve more, and as more as you keep playing the game, it's going to be easier and easier for you to achieve sculptures. 1, you're obtaining higher VIP level. 2, you're getting closer to your max technology, meaning that it will be easier to play events and high level events. 3, you're learning the way of the game, meaning that when you want to participate in the events, you will know that you kind of need to save speed ups and resources for a while when you want to participate in events, meaning that it will be easier for you to win events because you'll know a couple of these tricks regarding that. So I'm gonna go straight into it because I know the majority of players in Rise of Kingdoms, they are infantry. So I'm gonna start with that, giving you some pairings up to 5 marches for field battles as minimum investments for an infantry player. The first commander that pretty much anyone recommends to max out is YSG. Why is that? Is because of his unique abilities, being very universal and being able to utilize him pretty much in any march you want in the game. So if you look into YSG, once you obtain his expertise, he has a circular area, meaning that he hits up to 5 marches around him, so he doesn't need to be facing the marches to actually hit him like some commanders actually need that, which is pretty unique on his commander, and his circular area is also pretty big. The reason why everyone says to expertise him is for mostly the reason of AoE barbarian farming. Now you can do that without expertise him, but once you expertise him, you're gonna get that to another level. It's gonna be much more easier. What's barbarian farming AoE? Is when you just use the action points to attack one, and just because you're doing damage all around you, you'll be able to hit more barbarians and you'll just get free loot, free experience, gems, and what else those barbarians will give you. Actually, to max out a legendary is pretty expensive, so this is something we need to keep in mind. The total of sculptures to max the entire skills of a legendary is 690, and you need 10 to summon him, so that brings you to 700 sculptures. One note that we need to put separate throughout the video, so you want to keep that in mind, is that to max the primary skill of a legendary, it costs 50. To max the secondary skill of a legendary, you see 5 through 8 is going to be 140, and to max the third skill of a legendary, you see from 9 to 12 is going to be 190. So the third skill of a legendary is as expensive as the first 2, not to mention the last 4, which is 310. You also have the stars here as a reference, approximately how many normal stars you need for a legendary. So maxing YSG as a free-to-play is definitely going to be super costing, and by the time you're going to max YSG, there's going to be a lot of time passing, and you need something, right? You need something to play with. This is where Richard comes into play. Now, because I spent into the game, so I never had problems obtaining sculptures, not so high problems. My Richard I only used in 5111, and the moment I noticed that he drops in utility, I just stopped using him. That's the reason I haven't even brought him to 6 star. But if you're a free to play, you're probably going to use him for a very long time. My advice is to go 5-5 with your Richard. We already seen that's around 190 sculptures plus 10 to summon him. That brings you to 200 sculptures, right? To invest in Richards. 5511 Richard is definitely going to be very useful for you, and you're definitely going to have a lot of utilities. The next investment you want to do is pretty much maximizing YSG, get his expertise so you can actually do easier bar farming, especially when you get closer to max tech. You're going to go into KVK where you're going to have even high level bars, so that's where you want to spend the most time doing AoE bar farming. Now maximizing YSG is 700 sculptures, so you already spent 200 in Richard, then you spend another 700 in YSG, that brings you to 900. The next investment you want to do is Alexander. A lot of players recommend to just wait and get his third skill maxed. It's pretty nice, but to be honest, it's at 190 sculptures. With 190 sculptures, like I was mentioned, you can do another commander as 5-5. So doing Alex as 5-5, that's gonna be the most optimal way you wanna go. 5-5-1-1, and you already have one of your infantry pairs. You have Richard and Alex. 5-5-1-1 Richard, and you have a 5-5-1-1 Alex. And then YSG, you'll find his pairs. You'll find a pair with him. Don't worry, you can do Ethelfled, which everyone maxed. There's not gonna be a problem. You can do Ethelfled YSG, or if you're lucky enough with LC throughout a year and you get LC 5-5-5-1, and I'm using him for that matter. He's actually pretty decent. I have a max skill also as well, so that might be a plus for me, but I'm using LC and YSG and he's doing pretty alright. I'm still impressed about the fact that he's kind of wannabe legendary. He's very low damage, but he's useful. So you can pair your YSG with your LCid. Once you get in 5-5-5-1, don't spend universal on LC. That's why I'm also not counting, because you're getting from the gold key. That's why I said if you are lucky with your gold keys. Alexander's 5-5-1-1, that's another 200 sculptures. So we are at 1,100 sculptures. That should be your 1 year worth of investment in legendaries. You have your YSG max, you have your Richard, and you have your Alex. Now along the way, there's going to be a couple of other commanders that you're going to get through the gold keys. Couple of mentions we can say is Double C. So for example, you can do Pelagius and Double C, which is a very well known pair, Pelagius and Double C, which they are pretty tanky because they both have heal, rage restoration as well, and they survive pretty good on the battlefield. So that can be another march of yours on the battlefield. After that, from the gold keys, you will get Charles Martel, which for sure you'll get in 5-5, and that's also what I'm recommending. Keeping him as 5-5-1-1, and then whatever is going to happen with the rest skills, you want to hope for the fourth one, and you have another infantry pair, which you can put him with Sun Tzu. You can do a Charles Martel and Sun Tzu. After that, or you can do Charles Martel and Joan of Arc, so you can actually have some buffs on the battlefield. After that, going further down, you have Sun Tzu. Who you want to pair with Sun Tzu? You can pair Eulji Mundok, but what I would recommend to actually pair with your Sun Tzu is going to be Mehmed. Again, he drops from the gold key, so you don't have to invest. Same as Charles Martel, they drop from the gold keys. You will get him 5-5. Later or sooner or whenever, you will get him. In the course of a year, you will get him 5-5, same as Charles Martel. And 5-5-1-1, you can start utilizing Mehmed. You put him second to your Sun Tzu. So do you have 5 pairs already? You pretty much do. And that's your 1 year investment in Rise of Kingdom as an infantry player. So I'm gonna recap the marches that I just said. So you have Richard and Alex. You have Alcide and YSG. You can also go Herman and YSG if you like, or pretty much you can pair anyone else. Or if you actually got to that larger amount of sculptures in a year as a free-to-play, you are very lucky with Ark of Osiris, with KVKs and so on. You can do Constantine and YSG, for example. But I'm just saying Alcide, let's say you were lucky, you got 5-5-5-1 Alcide, you're doing Alcide and YSG. Then you go on to the third march, you have Pelagius and Double C. Then you go on to your fourth march, and you have Charles Martel and Joan, and you go on to your 5th march and you have Sun Tzu and Mehmed. So you have 5 field battle marches. Now if you actually feel some of these marches are not going to be as strong as you actually hope or as you actually like, then you can definitely drop some of them and just bring 3 of your best. But you have 5 marches, you play for 1 year, you are an infantry player, you have 3 infantry marches, you have 1 march so you can actually utilize some archers and 1 march so you can actually utilize some calves. As long as you have 3 marches of one type, that makes you an infantry player for 1 year. Now you go further than 1 year, and obviously, like I was mentioning, you keep getting more and more sculptures, easier sculptures. I already mentioned about Constantine doing him 5-5-1-1, and whoever I mentioned as being a primary commander, you have to bring him to 60. The next commanders you want to invest in as an infantry, you want to invest in Guan Yu. Guan Yu is pretty amazing. Now, how you can actually invest in Guan Yu, because that might be very tricky. You get his primary skill at 5, and after that you get him 1, 1, and 1. So once you max his primary, you just unlock his 4-star. But do you stop there? No, you do not. You do invest some more skills in your Guan Yu because he needs a little bit more juice. You can't just let him like that. And you want to hope that the skills will land on the 3rd and on the 4th. If they land on the 2nd, that's just your bad luck. I'll be very honest. But at least 4 more skills, I would invest him. So that way will bring him to a 200 sculpture investments, 10 to summon him, and 190 to put 8 skills in him, like I showed you at the beginning. After that, you can bring him to 60. If you want to go more in Guan Yu, it's highly worth it, because pretty much as long as you keep upgrading his 3rd and 4th, you're just benefiting. It's just more damage, more march speed, more attack, and so on. It's just more benefits that you will get from your Guan Yu. If you want to start replacing even more epics from the battlefield and you want to go further into investment, this is after a year, you can also do Leonidas. As a 5-5-1-1 Leonidas, he is pretty much good to go. And the recommendation is always to use Leonidas as a 2nd in command. And with who actually you could use Leonidas as a 2nd in command, you can use him 2nd to your Guan Yu. Because you already have Richard and Alex, you can do Guan Yu and Leonidas. Or if you don't plan to invest in Leonidas, then you can pretty much go Richard and Ethelflaed, you can go Guan Yu and Alex, you can go Constantine and Joan, because this is what everyone does in the Sunset Canyon, Constantine and Joan, and they're pretty tanky over there. You can do your Elcid, YSG, or you can do your Charles Martel and YSG, which also a lot of players do that since you're already using Constantine with John. So there you go, you have 4 infantry marchers already on the battlefield, and who you're gonna bring as a 5th march is gonna be entirely up to you. But probably at that point I wouldn't bring Pelagius anymore on the battlefield, because you have 4 infantry marchers which are pretty defensive. Guan Yu and Leonidas, they are very defensive. Charles Martel, YSG, Richard with Ethelflaed and Constantine, with John of Arc, you have 4 tanky marches. What would be the most logical investment for you to actually do next would be Saladin as an infantry player. That might sound a little bit crazy, but Saladin is very tanky. So if you want to carry on with the tankiness as a free-to-play, you want to go for Saladin, but that's going to be a pretty spicy investment, because it's 5-5-5-1 as the optimal way that you can actually go with Saladin. As a 2nd in command to Saladin, you can pretty much put anyone you want. You can take YSG from your Charles Martel as a 2nd in command to your Saladin, and then you can put someone else. You can put Sun Tzu 2nd to your Charles Martel, or you can put Mehmed if you want, or whoever else you see fit. So you'll have 5 tanky marchers as a free-to-play with very minimum investment on the battlefield. But the marches that I mentioned as a 2nd time, that's after 1 year of playing. So after 1 year of playing, the extra investments for these marches that I'm actually saying is going to be 200 for the Constantine, is going to be 200 for Guan Yu, which is 400, and it's going to be another 200 on Leonidas, which brings you to 600. And if you want to do Saladin as well, there's going to be 390. So there's going to be another 1,000 sculptures. So 1,100 sculptures is up to a year, and after a year is another 1,000 sculptures. So if you want to take Saladin March a little bit further and you want to just make him a separate super tanky march, that's going to be Takeda. But you're already 1,000 sculptures for the second year, which probably might just take you another year to actually obtain that. And if you want to go further, like I was mentioning, it's going to be Takeda. Now 5-5, there's going to be another 200. So that's going to bring you to 1,200 sculptures that you need to acquire in the second year. And if you manage to actually get more sculptures, I will do Takeda 5-5-5-1. Now this is just doing minimum investments in Commander and actually having a lot of legendaries on the battlefield and actually being more effective for field battle. Because the one problem that it is on the battlefield, and I will be very honest regarding that, is the epics. Every time someone brings epics on the battlefield, they are a target and they just get demolished. That is the reality, and there's no reason to hide it. So you want to be, let's say, more active on the field battle, right? So you can actually have more marchers, even as a free-to-play on the battlefield, get more kills in, get more action, because that's what everyone wants. And you also want to do some damage. You don't just want to get demolished, feel hospital, and then not have speed ups to actually recover and heal up your troops. So you have two variations of how far you want to go with your infantry. Now it's going to be the second advice, and it's going to be the second setup, which if you want to go and be a cav player, because that's going to be an option as well. Being a cav player, it is more expensive. I'm not gonna hide it. The cheapest way that you can go as a free-to-play, it is infantry. And I believe that about around 70-80% of the players playing this game, they are infantry. I'm expecting about 20-30% to be cav players, because every time I go into the KVK, it's just so much infantry roaming around, and that's why I have this feeling. And even when I'm watching all the KVKs, it's just infantry everywhere. That's why I have this strong feeling that the majority of players who play Rise of Kingdoms, they are infantry. That's why I also started with the infantry one. Now going into being a cav player as a free-to-play, it's gonna be the same option. You wanna max out YSG. I'm also gonna take the same reference, around 1,100 sculptures you wanna invest in, and you want to max out YSG first for the same purpose of just doing a lot of AoE bar farming, because you need speed ups, you need to train troops, you need that. So doing AoE farming, that's going to be your thing. Double C, you will get him from the gold keys as much as you will. Once you max out his primary skill, you just can unlock his other 3 skills and whichever luck you're going to have after that. Minamoto is something, it might help you at the beginning, to be honest, but you're no longer a free-to-play the moment you spend a dime into the game, so I cannot include Minamoto in the process. Maximizing YSG, that's going to be 700 sculptures like we talked. After that, the next investment that you can do will be Richard. You will need him, and that's going to be 50 sculptures. Why? You only need his primary skill, 5-1-1 Richard. It will help you a lot to do AoE bar farming, and you will need him for that. You will utilize him for field battles as well for a little while, but after 5 to 6 months as 5-1-1, he will drop drastically, and most likely you will not use him, because you're going to be a cav player. You're also going to invest in your cav equipment, and then infantry is just going to drop. But like I mentioned on the infantry players, 5-5-1-1, as an infantry player, they will also invest in infantry equipment, so they will keep adding stats on him. So even as a 5-5-1-1, he will still be very useful. So we are up at 750 sculptures right now as a cav player, as a free-to-play. You get Genghis Khan in the wheel. The first step that you want to do with Genghis Khan is 5-5. That's going to be 200 sculptures. So you're at 750 plus 200. So right now you're at 950 sculptures. On the same time with Genghis Khan, you get Saladin in the Mightiest Governor. And you don't want to wait for the Karkin, right? You want to unlock Saladin right away and probably start pumping some sculptures in him, so you can use him even as a second. So how you can actually do that is by saving a lot of speed ups. You save a lot of speed ups and you go for the 3rd or you go for the 4th MGE on your Saladin. So that way you get a list in the top 15, and you will get those 10 sculptures to actually unlock him. Because if you train a lot, it's kind of impossible, and do a lot of power up in the power day, it's kind of impossible to not get at least 10 sculptures of Saladin if you save for months. There's plenty of events now to get a lot of speed ups. And how you can actually do Saladin, you can do him 5-5-1. you don't unlock his 4-star. You'll use him as a second in command as 551. That means you're gonna have 1400 nuke. That means you're gonna have 20 cav defense and attack plus 5 march, and you're gonna have 10 skill damage reduction and 8 counter attack damage reduction. That's gonna be 200 sculptures to get 551 Saladin plus 950. That's 1150, which should be pretty doable as a free-to-play player in a 1 year of playtime. In the same time as a cav player, you have Pelagius, which are not part of the legendaries, and you have Babers, which they will also have to be your friends, rather you want it or not. So you got Pelagius and Double C, you got Babers and Santu, you got Belisarius and Ethelfled, you got Genghis and Saladin, and you got Richard with YSG. Or if you actually get in 1 year enough, you get LC to 5551, you can do LC to YSG. But I'm pretty sure you will be able to get some of the other commanders, which will definitely help you out. Or you can just use YSG primary, but he's going to be a target, and since you have 4 cav marchers on the field, you want to have something with mobility. So I would rather get LC from the gold keys, or if you didn't got LC, then you can probably put someone else, or you just don't use YSG. It's entirely up to you how it's going to be your option, or you can just go Ethelfled YSG to actually have some support. But the reason I'm saying Belisarius with Ethelfled is because they both do 2 seconds attack, defense, or health reductions, and you will have kind of 4 seconds of debuff from Belisarius with Ethelfled. And Belisarius is pretty fast, and that's why you're using cavs, because you don't want to stay there on the heat, you don't want to stay there and take damage. You want to stay on the side, right? You just want to pick targets with your 4 marches or 5 marches and just trim them down nicely, and then just retreat when the majority and the big murder ball comes, and so on. So as a cav player, you need to play very cautiously, especially as a free-to-play player, because you can't afford hospital bills. And Babers is pretty squishy, there's no doubt about that. Belisarius as well. Pelagius with Double C, they are pretty tanky, though they're not that squishy. You want to make sure that you can protect them as much as possible. And when you use Belisarius with Ethelfled, don't want to look at the amount of severely wounded they cause, because they won't cause any damage. They'll be very weak in causing damage. That's gonna be the reality. This is the only thing that you will need from them to reduce the attack and defense of the targets, and same does Ethelfled. So the march that you're hitting will be debuffed with defense reduction. This is the whole point. It's not about how much damage they will do on the battlefield. It's about their utilities for you. So you have 5 marches, even as a cav player, as a free-to-play cav player, throughout the 1 year of gameplay, with 1150 sculptures investments. And maybe I do have to correct that a little bit, because you need 10 to summon Richard, and that's going to be another 50 to max his primary skill. So that's going to be 1160. So my apologies. Now going further into investing in cavs, this is going to be a little bit of a problem when it comes to the cav players. You're gonna need to get the 3rd skill of Saladin max. 5551 Saladin is gonna be a beast. You're gonna love him so much, it's gonna be insane. And that's gonna be another 190 sculptures for you, and that will bring you to a very nice and pretty much max commander. You don't even need to worry about his 4th skill, you just unlock it if you want to bring Saladin to 60. Now the problem is going to be the next step, is because Genghis Khan is so highly worthy to be expertise, and that's a lot of sculptures, yo. To actually expertise a 2nd legendary as a free-to-play is going to be freaking expensive. So there's going to be option. You can go ahead and expertise Genghis Khan, so you can actually profit from his 2nd to none skill, which, like I mentioned, is fairly good. Or you can invest in other commanders. What I'm going to advise is going to be with a max Genghis Khan. So we already spent 190 sculptures in Saladin, and then we're going to have to expertise Genghis Khan, which is going to be 500 sculptures. That's going to bring you through 690 sculptures investment on the 2nd year. Going further down onto commanders investments, we are reaching to Attila and Takeda. So the next step is going to be to get Takeda to 5551. 690 sculptures, right? That's quite a lot. Now if you spend another 390 in Takeda, that's going to bring you to about 1080 sculptures in the second year, 5551 Takeda, and 5, 1, 1, and 1 Attila, which is 60 sculptures. So 1080 plus 60, 1140 sculptures on the second year. And that's going to be your commanders as a cav player. Smaller investments to be done if you want to do a mix, so you can actually add a mix into your cavs, would most likely be with Guan Yu and Alex, which I already talked on the infantry, how you can actually invest on them. That means that you will not maximize your Genghis Khan, you'll keep him as 5511, you'll not have a second expertise legendary, and then you can probably go for an infantry player like Guan Yu and Alex if you just plan to bring more legendaries on the battlefield. But I'm just gonna do like I was mentioning, just for cav, like if you just want to do as many cavs as possible, fear marchers. So 1140 sculptures on the second year. So let's do the pairings. You're gonna do the same Pelagius and Double C. Unfortunately, you're still going to have to use Babers for now with Sun Tzu. You will do Attila with Takeda, and you will do Saladin with Genghis. So you're going to put Saladin first and Genghis second. Now if you want to mix them up, if you want to split them apart, you can do Saladin and YSG, you can do Genghis and Takeda, but then you're not going to use Attila, because Attila on its own is not going to be any good at all. If you pair him with Takeda, he's going to do alright, even as a 5-1-1 Attila. Now as a 5th March, you're going to have a lot of options to actually go with, because you'll have your Mehmed as 5-5, you'll have your Charles as 5-5 already at that time, and probably plenty of other commanders. You have Aethelflaed Max, and you also want to include Aethelflaed somewhere in the mix. So most likely your 5th March is probably going to be Charles Martel and Aethelflaed, so you can actually bring Aethelflaed on the battlefield for the debuff, and you'll just keep Charles Martel as a tank. Like when you're retreating, you just let him there, take the beat. But at that point, after 1 year, I wouldn't use Belisarius anymore. I used Belisarius in the 1st and 2nd KVK because I was a cav player. This is pretty much what I've done, just cav marches. But after 2nd KVK, I stopped using Belisarius because he was literally getting me too many severely wounded. So I literally replaced him with an Archer March. So back then I was doing YSG and Frederick because my Frederick was maxed and it worked it. But you can do, like I mentioned, LC and YSG. So that's pretty much about being a cav player as well with minimum investment. Is a little bit rough as a cav player, I do have to say. That's why a lot of players prefer to be infantry, because it's much cheaper. But like I said, if you don't want to max Genghis Khan and you want to keep him as a 5-5-1-1 Genghis Khan, then you'll have 500 sculptures. And the best way you can go with 500 sculptures is just investing 200 in Guan Yu and 200 in Alex. And then you'll even have 100 less sculptures. So that will bring you to about 1040 sculptures. The math, I think it was about 1140 on the second year. So that's another way you can go, and you still keep Saladin with Genghis because Genghis is pretty weak. Then you have your Attila with Takeda, you have Guan Yu and Alex, you'll have your Babers and Sun Tzu, and you'll have your Pelagius and Double C. Or if you're not happy at that point about Babers and Sun Tzu, because obviously it's two epics, you can bring El Cid, 5-5-5-1 El Cid with YSG, preferably El Cid first. So there you go, you have your 5 marchers, 1 archer, 1 infantry, and 3 cavs with minimum investment. I would say that you will be pretty optimal and you will do pretty great on the battlefield as well. And that can also help you a lot in the Ark of Osiris or Osiris League. If you get more sculptures, you can just maximize some of these commanders that I mentioned. Obviously not El Cid or not Saladin, but some of the other commanders is actually worth investments, like maximizing him. Like Genghis Khan, for example, or Alexander, or Guan Yu, trying him to get him his 1st, 3rd, and 4th kill. These are pretty good commanders that you want to keep investing in if you're getting more sculptures that I actually mentioned throughout this video. But I believe that you actually have a decent amount of solid pairs that you can actually use or you can actually benefit from, and various other options as a cav player you can do, because obviously you'll have all these commanders. You'll have Mehmed. I didn't mention Julius Caesar, which I probably could have included him in the infantry formations. I'm so about Julius Caesar, to tell you the truth. just doing two commanders that don't do damage. I'd rather just have buff and debuff, like for example Constantine and John. They don't do any damage, but at least they both buff all the marches around you. That's why I didn't include Julius Caesar, because who you can put him with? Charles Martel and Julius Caesar just have another tanky march that pretty much do anything, just a punching bag. You already have your Constantine, you just don't need more. So that's the reason I kind of didn't include Julius Caesar, even though he kind of proves to be pretty decent with some of the marches. I've seen some tests like Genghis and Julius Caesar, for example. It does alright, but you still get a lot of severely wounded. It does give a lot of defensive option to your Genghis, but you just get a lot of severely wounded because of the troops capacity, I believe. You already have the options that I'll pretty much go with, and I will say that you can be pretty solid even as a free-to-play player with minimum investment on the legendaries. You also have to keep in mind that a max legendary is a max legendary, right? And to give you advice regarding the Mightiest Governor events, because this might just be a big concern about winning MGEs, like even unlocking Attila, right? Because you're going to be a calf player, and all these commanders will be some of them in the Mightiest Governor, and you don't want to wait for the Car King. You might just want to unlock them when they come. On the Mightiest Governor, the best way how you can actually get a lot of points is training tier 3 throughout the time. So until the Mightiest Governor, you want to train tier 3. Let's say you know that 3 months from now is going to be sad in Mightiest Governor, but you don't want to go for the first, right? You want to go for the third or the fourth. If you train a lot of tier 3 and you want to just upgrade them to tier 4, I believe it's about 5 hours with the training buff, with the rune, and with all that, 5 to 6 hours. And it's 20 points. The difference between tier 3 and tier 4, between tier 3 and tier 5, because you probably have tier 5 by the time Attila gets into your kingdom, that's going to be 80 points. So it's even more. But as a speed up wise, is way less, upgrading tier 3 to tier 4. Because you can stack up a large amount of troops. Tier 3 takes roughly a day, less than a day to actually train. If you saved up for 3 months, in 1 month, 2,000 troops at a time, you train 60,000 on each type of troops. That's 180,000. Times 3 months, that's about 720k. Now if you just upgrade tier 2 to 3 or 4, that's going to be 20 points. That's going to be your 40 million points with a low amount of speed ups. Now if you upgrade, you're probably not going to have T5 siege. So 180,000 times 3 is going to be 540,000. And if you upgrade tier 3 to tier 5, which can be archers, infantry, and cabs, that's going to bring you to about 40 million points. And the amount of speed ups that you actually spend to upgrade tier 3 to tier 5, it's less than half than just training raw T5s. So is it actually going to be beneficial for you to get points in one Mightiest Governor that you're interested in? Yes. So this is just another advice regarding the Mightiest Governors that you can do as a free-to-play player. That's what I'm doing on my alt as well. I'm always just training a bunch of tier 3, and when it's the Mightiest Governor, he has all 4 troops to T5s, and I just upgrade them by 2,000 at a time with the rune, with the kingdom buff, and it's pretty good. Points wise, you get a large amount of points. So there's tips and tricks that you can actually do, get very effective either on the battlefield or get very effective in PvP or various other events, even as a free-to-play player. Hope that it made a lot of sense what I actually talked in this video. It kind of got too long. Until next time, this is your boy Legend Ronnie, signing off. Peace out, yo, and take care. See you on the next one, and stay safe out there.